Welcome to another Frugal Friday video. Today's video is for the Sewfisticated card holder. This is from Sewfisticated Craft Designs. I have bought several patterns from this designer over the years, but this is actually the first time I'm actually going to sew one. After reading over the pattern, I kind of regret that I haven't already. The pattern is written really well, and there's lots of little tips and tricks that are very useful and beneficial given throughout. So even though this is a free pattern, there were no corners cut, I felt. I feel like it's a solid pattern with a lot of information given, designed to help you grow as a sewist. So I'm very excited to get started with this pattern. This pattern was really simple to cut out. I'm going to go over the pieces quickly and then we'll get started sewing. So I have my wristlet strap. I'm making mine out of webbing to make it a little bit easier. I have webbing from the Emporium, and then I just have the raw edge tucked underneath here and then this edge folded over. Since her webbing's high quality, all I had to do is melt this end and it's not going to fray. I did slip a swivel hook on here and I'll just top stitch 2 rows of stitches across here. For my zipper, I am using zipper tape from Warmino. I just have a cheap zipper pull on here. I went ahead and folded my ends down 90 degrees. I just have them clipped, so I'll have to stitch down both of these to baste that curve into place. On the other end, I do have a zipper tab. I just grabbed a piece of the fabric and did a double fold piece of tape. You could easily just sew this on. The pattern shows you how to sew the tab on instead of doing a double fold piece of tape. Whatever's quickest and easiest for you. What I'll do, since I have this just clipped on here, I will just top stitch across this folded edge here at the bottom, and that will have the zipper ready for installation. I have a piece of clear vinyl cut out. This is also from the Emporium, and I have it cut out to the size it's going to be at the end. The pattern does give you a template that for a larger piece of vinyl, just to make it a little bit easier to sew on, but I felt like this actually would be easier for me to sew, so I made sure that I cut mine exactly the size it should be in the end. For the binding at the top, the designer tells you that you can use pre-made binding, a raw edge material, or do like me and use the fabric that you're using the pattern and make a 4-way fold piece of binding tape. Then you can just slip it over that top edge of your clear vinyl. To get this piece prepped, the pattern tells you to sew 2 rows of top stitching on here. One 1/8 of an inch away from this folded edge, and then another one 1/8 of an inch away from the top edge. Whenever I go to sew this binding on this piece of vinyl, I'm going to slip in a woven tag from Sewing Blurbs just to make it a little bit of an extra touch there. I just will slip that in there, and then when I top stitch, it will secure it in place. So this is the first steps of prep work I'm going to do, are these things. Let's talk about the other pieces before we get started though. You're going to cut out 3 pieces that look like this. This one's going to be my exterior. The other 2 will be your lining pieces. For the exterior, I do have a piece of Royal Pixie Light on the back. For the lining, I don't have anything. My fabric is a cotton canvas from Jen's Fabrics, and so it's a little bit stable already, but I just wanted a little bit more support on the exterior piece, so I did add the layer of interfacing onto it. For your credit card slots, this is what's going to be the other side of the exterior. One exterior will have the clear vinyl pocket on it. The other one will be credit card slots. So you have this long piece that you cut out. The pattern tells you to fold at the bottom first, right sides together, then do a wrong sides together fold, and then another right sides together fold. What we're going to do with this piece is this is considered a fussy cut card slot. It's going to be the front of these card slots just to have a nice decorative look. My fabric didn't really have an area to fussy cut, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this cork tag and I'm going to center it and sew it on, and I felt like that would be a nice touch for the front of the card since I didn't have any kind of like special motif or anything to fussy cut on this. I will top stitch all the credit card slots once I get them everything attached. Last thing you will need is you'll need 2 credit card slot side pieces. So after we have this sewn together, we will just end up adding this on the side, and then that will be the other exterior piece for this little pouch. So what I'm going to do first is just this little prep work that I have with the clear vinyl slip pocket, both tacking down the 90-degree angles on my zipper and the zipper end there, and then also my wristlet strap. So the zipper's prepped, and if you notice, I have a zipper pull on here that has an opening. Instead of me using a D-ring in this pattern, I'm just going to use my opening in the zipper pull to be able to attach the wristlet. Whenever I'm doing small pouches or wristlets like this, I almost always try to use that option just because I don't like the way the D-ring looks on the side most of the time. I also have finished this wristlet strap, and I've got the vinyl prepped. Let's go ahead and pull out that exterior piece and this vinyl pocket, and let's match up the edges and the sides. If your piece is cut larger than this pocket, you will need to use the pattern piece for the perfect placement. You will baste yours on, and then you will trim around the extra. Since mine is cut to a perfect fit, mine fits the way it should, and now what I have to do is I just have to baste from the side across the bottom and up the other side. Now that I have that pocket in place, I want to start working on the other exterior side, which is going to be the credit card slots. I'm going to take out this tag. I'm going to have this fussy card piece positioned so that it is right sides up. I'm going to find the center and sew around this tag just to attach it, to just give it an extra like feature, something cute to look at on the outside. So I'm going to use a little bit of glue to get this to adhere, and then I'm just going to sew around this tag to secure it. Now that I have the tag on, I'm going to go ahead and open all these pieces up. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to have it orientated, this bottom piece, the way I want it to look in the end. And then I'm going to flip it so that it's right sides together. So you can see it's actually going to be upside down. So if you want, like if you have a directional print here, you want to make for sure that you pay attention to that so that you don't have any problems when you flip it back down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew from one side to the other using the seam allowance given in the pattern. After you have this sewn together, designer tells us just to kind of take some of that bulk off the corners by snipping at the sides. Definitely do not snip into your stitches. Then you are going to fold this open, and so I'm going to fold that seam down so that it lays a little bit smoother, so that way whenever I do the folding according to the pattern piece, it won't get in the way too much. This is how it should look at the end. If you have any problems with it laying flatly, to take it over to the iron for sure to make sure everything is laying flat. Now we're going to top stitch along these two card slot pieces, but before I do that, I'm just going to pull out this side piece and make for sure that it's pretty much even, and you can see it is, so I know my measurements are correct. I wouldn't want to top stitch until I knew that for sure. So now I'm just going to pull back that top area so that I can top stitch on this first credit card slot. Now that that one is top stitch, I'm going to pull back the other credit card slot with that top piece now and top stitch across here. This will help that seam to lay flat as well. I'm going to go ahead and baste down these sides just so that whenever I'm adding my side panels, I don't have to worry so much about things shifting or me having to be really careful there. Here is how my credit card slots look. I'm just going to trim up these threads, and now I'm going to position the side panels on each side. If your print's directional, make sure it's going the way you want. Lay it down right sides together on top. Sew down this side with the seam allowance in the pattern, and then repeat for this second piece on the other side. Again, check that direction if your print is directional. After we have these sewn down, then we are going to flip them open. We will keep the seam under the side piece and top stitch on both of these side pieces. Now that we have the credit card slots made, what we're going to do is we're going to take our pattern piece for this same shape and we're going to place it on top and trim around so that these are all the same shape. Then we're just putting together a basic pouch and we'll be done with our sophisticated card holder. So now we're ready to put everything together. I think honestly either one of these exterior pieces could be your front and one could be your back. I'm going to go ahead and make my credit card slots the front, but I really don't think it matters so much on this. So this will be my front, that will be my back. I'm going to have one front lining piece, one back lining piece. I'm going to go ahead and start by basting my zipper onto my lining first. Since I want the zipper to close to the left on the front, I'll have to attach it or baste it to the lining going in the opposite way. I'll make sure I have it centered on this lining piece and then I'll just baste 1/8 of an inch away. If you're someone who likes to use double-sided tape, you could definitely do it here and skip this basting step. Now that I have the zipper basted in place, I'm going to take that exterior front and I'm going to lay it right sides together with the lining piece. This time I will sew from edge to edge all along the top with the full seam allowance given in the pattern. Make sure you keep these two pieces in line while you're sewing. Once you have those pieces sewn together, go ahead and separate the pieces from the zipper, which means they'll be wrong sides together. I am going to top stitch now. I'm going to top stitch through the exterior and the lining, but I'm only going to top stitch from zipper edge to the zipper tab. You could go across all pieces from side to side. I just feel like this gives me a better look if I do it this way. Here is how the first side looks. I'm going to do the same steps to attach the other side to this edge of the zipper, and then when I come back, we will sew the exteriors and the linings together. So now we have the exteriors and the lining sewn together. I'm going to go ahead and move my zipper pull to the middle area. One thing is so that it won't hit whenever I'm sewing with the needle, and the other reason so it'll be easier to turn. Then I'm going to pick up the two exteriors, clip them right sides together, and then I'm going to do the same with the linings. I'm going to go ahead and make for sure I clip here at this seam first. Even if I have to move my clips and adjust down here at the bottom, this seam is where it most matters that they connect. So the bottom still looks good. I don't have to adjust anything there. On this lining, I'm going to pull these pieces right sides together as well, and I'm going to leave my opening in the lining. That's where I'm going to turn this bag through. So I'm going to start sewing on one side of the lining, go all the way around to the exterior, and then come back down the other side, leaving that gap. The designer tells us that we can sew with a larger seam allowance on this lining portion so that we have a snug fit on this pouch, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start sewing with that bigger seam allowance, locking the stitches, and then as soon as I cross over to that exterior, I'm going to be sewing with the smaller correct seam allowance. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start veering a little now, keeping that seam pushed together, and now I'm at the correct seam allowance here on the exterior. I'm going to trim down this bigger seam allowance on the lining. I'm going to trim up any overhang that I have on the exterior, but not really trim the seam allowance down. I will not trim anything where that opening is. Now that we have everything trimmed down, we're going to go through that opening in the lining, make sure your zipper's completely open now, and start slowly turning this bag right sides out, making sure you take the time to poke out the curves and get everything laying flat. I have everything turned right sides out, so now what I gotta do is I gotta close up the opening here in the lining. I'm just going to tuck those edges in and sew across here. Tuck your lining in, make sure you take the time to have all your corners poked out. Everything should be laying decently. With the PVC or TPU, you never get like a perfect corner or curve, but it should look pretty decent. we can go ahead and close up our pouch. Oh, look how cute this is. This is beautiful. I love it. This is a free pattern. It comes together really quickly. It is so convenient, so useful. I love the way it looks inside. Plenty of room in there for your essentials. You're not going to be putting a phone in here. You're not going to be putting a water bottle in here. This is just if you need to run in the store, if you need to run an errand. Perfect to keep your credit cards, cash, coins, receipts in here in a bigger bag, or to just grab it and carry it as a wristlet. I love this. I love the pattern. I feel like she gives a lot of great useful tips, tricks, techniques throughout this pattern. This free pattern actually motivates me to sew some of her other patterns that I've had for years. Thank you so much to Sophisticated Craft Designs for allowing me to create this tutorial and for giving us a free pattern. My clear TPU is from the Emporium, tag from Sewing Blurbs, webbing from the Emporium, zipper from Mormino, cork tag from Heartwood and Hyde, and all the fabrics are from Jen's Fabrics. As I've mentioned before, I am a rep with Jen's Fabrics. If you use my rep code BETH10, you get 10% off your orders, and then I get 10% back in credit to buy more fabric with Jen's Fabrics. Thank you so much for watching another Frugal Friday video of mine, and I hope today in your sewing room you can find ways to be frugal as well. Thanks so much and have a wonderful day.